It all started when I was in second grade. I think I was around 7 then. I really have a very faint memory of how it actually began, but all I know is that one day I suddenly had this really weird urge to rub my index finger and my middle finger together, like this. It's kind of like my fingers were really looking for this one specific sensation. The side of the last knuckle of my index finger rubbing against the side of the last knuckle of my middle finger. Like this. My mom noticed me doing it because I wasn't doing it discreetly in any way. I remember actually pausing sometimes just to do it. And my mom didn't have any idea why I was doing it. I had no idea why I was doing it. She kind of got furious about it. She would sometimes tie up my fingers with a rubber band or hit my fingers with her pamalo just to make me stop doing it. Later that I only realized that that was the beginning of a lifelong burden and question as to what the heck is wrong with me. I remember the most distinct one that I got, and it's distinct because I remember exactly how I got it. It was in third grade. My seatmates were trying to know who's awesome enough to be able to move their noses without touching them. I was watching them, and then later on I went into the action and tried it myself. And of course I could do it as well. And after that, I just sort of didn't stop doing it. Not like second by second, but I get these moments where I have the urge to do it again. And it's kind of weird because it's not a normal thing for someone to have a constant urge to, flare their nostrils in and out. I've accumulated more of these silly little things that I do over the years. None of them did my mom like, of course. And she then kept calling them mannerisms. Over the years, I have been struggling to stop doing them, especially in high school, which was kind of like the peak for me. I already have like a number of these mannerisms that I do. My parents get mad at me, and my family just generally teases me about it. But to be honest, it's not really much of a huge deal, as my family would put it. It's not like it's harming or hurting anyone, because these are just like small movements. But still, they kind of look weird, and that's probably why they tease me about it. I was in college, and these mannerisms of mine haven't really troubled me for years. I mean, it's not completely lost, I still have a couple of them, but it never really hindered my life in any way. Maybe a few friends have noticed me doing it sometimes, but I only give an excuse like, oh, it's just a mannerism that I have, whatever that means, or that my nose itches when I do my nose thing. I've developed this mannerism where I kind of just flex this muscle or muscle groups here on both arms, and it's not like like flexing that I have to do this, but just like flexing the individual muscles here without actually moving it. And I've been doing them pretty aggressively around 2017 or 2018 to a point where they start to get sore. In the same span of time, I've noticed that my mannerisms were at an all-time high. I even started to have these weird sounds that I make where I roll my R's exaggeratedly.
Yo. Hello.
Yo. And some other small sounds. There was even a time when we were rehearsing in the Philippine Women's University for No Limitangre de Opera, and while I was sitting down, all my facial mannerisms started to happen. Like, I couldn't stop it, maybe because I was stressed or I was tired or exhausted. My face just won't stop moving. And I remember this a bit vividly because I felt kind of embarrassed that other people might have seen me do it. But yeah, it was a weird moment for me. And my face was just like really tired and exhausted from all the movement that it has been doing for like the past few hours that time. And that got me concerned. So I started to search the internet for answers. Obviously, the first thing I searched were mannerisms. And guess what? It's not it. Basically, mannerisms are just a manner of doing things, or manner of saying things. Much like what I'm doing now, this is a manner of speaking, thus this is a mannerism that I do whenever I'm speaking. I move my hands, right? So whatever I have is not called mannerism. Also, it's a form of art movement, apparently. I didn't even know about mannerisms. So I was lost. From there, I didn't know where to go because all my life, my mom has been calling them mannerisms. And now it's not really what it's called. So from there, I didn't really know where to go next. I didn't know what to search after that. But I didn't give up. I kept searching and searching until I ended up with movement-related schizophrenia, Parkinson's, Huntington's, etc. Until I came across the term tics. And what do you know? I found it. It's called tics. Whatever I have is called tics. I read all about it. How sometimes it's considered as involuntary instead of involuntary, how it's these sort of sudden movements and repetitive movements that you do for no reason at all, but you still keep doing them. I even saw some of the most common ones like eye blinking, which I have, facial grimacing, which also I kind of have. And I was like, yes, this is what I have. This is what I have been doing for most of my life. It got me super excited because I finally know what it's really called. And it's not mannerisms. It's tics. As I read through what tics are, I noticed that it keeps getting associated with Tourette Syndrome. Not that I was scared or anything, but I couldn't possibly have Tourette's, right? Because from what I know back then, people with Tourette Syndrome, they do these weird, facial or huge body movements in the streets, and they just basically look unusual and a little bit weird. So I searched more about it on YouTube, and that was probably the first time that I also found out that people with Tourette syndrome also yell inappropriate stuff. So I just kept watching, and almost all videos about Tourette syndrome show the same thing. So I thought to myself, I might not have Tourette syndrome, but I might have something related to it that it's a lot milder version of something like Tourette's. I don't know. I really didn't know. That's the point. That's why I was researching about it. But one thing's for sure, whatever I have is called tics and not mannerisms. So I got excited because I got a part of the answer that I'm looking for, which is tics. And I immediately told my friend who I trust about these things, and he dismissed me. As if I said something offensive. He basically immediately invalidated what I was saying because I mentioned Tourette's. It's not that I told him that I have Tourette's or anything, but I told him that whatever I have might be somehow related to something like Tourette's, maybe a mild condition of something like it, but not really Tourette's. I couldn't even tell myself that I could possibly have Tourette's because I know that would have been ridiculous. One thing's for sure as well is that I don't know anything about Tourette syndrome back then. I didn't know anything about this condition or my condition for that case. So I was just having all these speculations, and all I wanted basically was just to tell someone about what I found online about tics. And it's just a little depressing. It's not the first time that I got dismissed, invalidated, or not believed for what I said, felt, or experienced. It was just kind of embarrassing because it seemed like I was self-diagnosing in his eyes, but the truth is I just really needed someone to talk to about it and probably, get some advice on what to do. And he could have suggested for me to get diagnosed or talk to me about what exactly I've been experiencing. But no, he just dismissed what I told him. So, since I felt very humiliated about what happened, I just kind of ignored a huge chunk of what I searched. I just stopped talking about my tics for a very long time, and I just kept it to myself again until the pandemic happened. Work from home. There's no reason for anyone to go outside unless it's very important, and more people are getting more anxiety and getting more depressed. Basically, everybody's mental health is not in a great state. And then there's also the case of my tics. See, most of my life, I've always tried to hide my tics in public. I've always tried to, hold it in and try my best not to do it in public because it's kind of embarrassing, and who wants to see this? So I try to be as discreet as possible whenever I'm in public. One fact about tics is that it's very closely related to physical, mental, and emotional stress. Another fact about tics is that when you're stressed, you do them a lot more, and the fact that you're doing it makes you almost physically stressed as well. So it's another added layer of stress whenever you're already stressed for a day or something. So a combination of all the depressing news plus the working from home, teaching online and all the stress that comes with it, my tics have been in such a frenzy. Since I'm working from home, I have no reason whatsoever to prevent myself from doing my tics because no one will see me anyway, so I just kind of do it. And it's been getting worse. It has gone from I just do it very discreetly inside my mouth and I could barely hear it, to a point where I literally pause, and whenever I hear a word that has an R, I would stop and just kind of do it, and I could audibly hear it, and almost in an annoying sense. So I told myself, yeah, it's probably time to get some help. So I got myself diagnosed with a neurologist. I had to do some very expensive tests like MRI, EEG, and some blood works to see if I have any sort of brain damage that's causing me to do my tics. And yeah, they didn't find anything. I'm brain damage free, basically. Which is good news. But at the same time, it means that I have another condition that's causing me to do these tics. I remember my dad telling me back then, or rather teasing me, that if I don't stop doing my mannerisms or my tics, I would end up like a guy he knew that had Tourette Syndrome. And then he does some pretty inaccurate representation of what Tourette Syndrome might look like. Apparently, I didn't end up like that guy. I have been like that guy for the longest time. I have Tourette Syndrome. And it's nothing to be sad about. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of happy. Much like any person with TS, we're all happy to get answers, For the longest time, there's this thing that you have, or this thing that you do. You don't know what it's called, you don't know what's wrong with you, and then finally, you get an answer. It's not like there's an actual cure for Tourette syndrome or any sort of effective drug that would actually make you stop doing the tics, but getting an answer is a lot more than you would think it would be. Getting that answer is such a liberating feeling, that finally that whatever is wrong with you is something that other people are also experiencing. You're not this one person who's doing these weird things all by yourself. I was very lucky enough actually, because on the week that I searched for the Philippine Tourette Syndrome Association, apparently they were gonna hold a seminar on that weekend. So I was just like, wow, perfect timing, right? I told myself that I'm definitely gonna be there in the seminar, and I was. I joined the seminar, and it was a pretty exciting time for me. It was the very first time that I get to see other people, getting to interact with people who actually have the same condition that I have. It's just a fun experience. Getting to hear other people sharing their experiences and how it's so much alike yours. Seeing these kids, parents, normal people who basically just go by their lives and trying to do their best to live with this condition. It's inspiring. Also, what's funny is, apparently I'm not the only one who have been calling them mannerisms their whole lives. I guess it stems from the fact that us Filipinos don't really have a great familiarity with the condition, and there's so much misrepresentation online, especially on the media, or rather in YouTube. If you search Tourette Syndrome, it will show you all the severe cases. A lot of the severe cases don't even swear. Sometimes they just say one thing repeatedly.
Biscuit? Why the word biscuit? Oh gosh, I wish I knew.
I can't really blame the media somehow, because who would want to watch a documentary showcasing Tourette's and then just show a mild case of Tourette syndrome? So, that's it, guys. I have Tourette syndrome. Finally, a lifelong question that has burdened me for my whole life has been answered. Now, if you have any questions regarding my condition, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to answer them probably in another video, so that I could just give you guys a collective answer to it. I have so much more to share so that I could raise awareness for Tourette syndrome, especially in the Philippines, where there's a lot of misrepresentations and a lot of people are not really aware of what Tourette syndrome really is. And I would be very happy to share what I know based on my experiences and some research. But until then, it's been a pleasure.